how do we control? How does the state keep control of how these LLMs are developing while getting the benefit from innovation?
Sean, take the sovereignty one.
30 seconds. It's challenging. There's cultural implications. There's economic implications to sovereignty. For Irish cultural sovereignty, if I can just address that, it's largely about creating a corpus of training data so that our language, our culture can actually be understood by these models. So, for example, they're not just regurgitating an Americanized view of Irish culture back to us in the future when people are watching streaming shows that were just generated by AI in the moment. Is that 30 seconds?
Okay, all right. I will be a little bit generous, so we will allow. Sinead.
I want to throw something in. AI can be an excellent conversationalist. Certainly, if you use it in voice mode now, you can have a real conversation. It's always there for you and always attentive. And that's actually missing in a lot of people's lives, and especially there's a lot of loneliness out there, so it can be helpful. But there is a challenge that will emerge, which is there's always a risk of a transfer of ethical agency to something that's so anthropomorphized. So there's an element of AI literacy required here. That's while people, maybe benefit from this new kind of social interaction that can keep their minds active, in fact, even educate them, that they be careful about who's actually in charge of that relationship, and one of them is just a machine. It'd be quite easy to stumble into grey areas there. Okay, thanks for the question, which I understand is how to balance leading an AI startup with being on the council, particularly with a view to ensuring fairness and preventing marginalisation in communities. In terms of the actual startup, mostly what we're actually working on is trying to make AI more rules-based and to feed it standard operating procedures appropriate to the situation, which are auditable. Right? That's the specific about our company. More broadly, for me, the role on the AI committee, AI advisory council is, I hope, an opportunity to help start a serious conversation about the potential severity of the impact of AI on us. I have gone back and reread my marks. I think that's an appropriate thing to do under these circumstances. There's a lot of potential disruption affecting society from this. It's a race. It's an arms race between nations, essentially. And anything we can do to have a serious conversation like this one is an impact which I'm happy to help with.
Okay, thanks.
About how does that relate to whether Ireland does or doesn't have data centres?
I'll pass it, Sean, yeah.
Yeah. AI fundamentally resolves down to energy. I think that's what we're seeing everywhere. So it's not even so much a question of whether we have data centres. If we want to participate in the supply chain of the future at that level, we need to figure out our energy. And then I don't think the data centres will be the controversial part if we have an abundance of energy. But until we do, I think we're already have reached the end of our line in terms of how many data centres we as an economy are willing to continue to build based on fossil fuels. So the question is really, what can we do to fix our energy infrastructure so that we can potentially participate in the future economy by helping run the AI and thereby sustain some kind of tax base in the future when we might very sorely need it after it displaces some labour. That's the level, at least, that I personally am.
I suppose what I'm getting at, I have my own views on this in terms of what data centres can bring and the energy demand that they can bring, that therefore in turn you hope results in greater investment in renewables from the same people that are creating that demand. But I suppose what I'm really trying to get at, if you have a NIMBY hat on here and you say, well, look, we've done our bit with data centres in little old Ireland, just put them somewhere else. Does that impact in terms of how AI is adapted in Ireland, implemented in Ireland? How does that impact Ireland if that was a decision to be taken?
I think there's potential for massive economic disruption from AI. The places where Ireland can feasibly participate in the future supply chain includes energy, renewables. We should be able to do a lot more than we are. Data centres, because we actually have excelled hosting data centres up until recently, right, relative to our size. So we have the established expertise to do that. A regulatory environment is another area, and to some extent maybe at actual technology, with a few companies like us, but we'll see about that. But energy and data centres are some core elements that we should seek, in my opinion, to try to participate in, that we have a pedigree in. But it really does boil down to a renewables energy and hopefully tapping into that future demand, and hopefully ending up in a better situation where indeed AI helps drive the market towards renewables, and that we can excel being a leader of that.
Just one final
I think I'm on the same page as you. I think any regulation is going to be too late. This is far too fast-moving a topic. Our best defence is probably for the people using the technology to understand what it is they're using. And that's the best that we can do right now. We're not in a position where, I don't think we can ban the technology or prevent it.
Pause it?
Or pause it.
Could we pause it?
You could argue maybe that the EU AI Act from some quarters is an attempt to pause it, but I don't think that's really opting out of participating in whatever this future economy is, which leads to a second thing. And in any case, end users will work around that. So perhaps, flawed as it is, it comes back to literacy, not just for the end users, but maybe for all of us. This council we all have full-time jobs. You know, I'm not in work right now.
And that's what I guess what I'm trying to say is
And we
encourage you to
could
please
resource it
do
better.
ask for the resources you need to be effective, because I think we really need you.
Can you predict what will be the first job losses? You know, what industry do you see in Ireland being the first hit?
Ironically enough, it's the software engineers. Yes, it's naturally enough, people in my industry are taking this technology and applying it to the first market they know, which is themselves. And I mean, that's real and that's current. Entry-level programming jobs are largely replaced by AI now, certainly among the leading companies. And the job of the software engineers has moved up to more software architecture. I think if you speak to many lawyers, you find the same things happening in law firms. And so those are two obvious examples. And the quality of the technology is improving month over month, palpably, when we can see it in our own company. Yeah, and that indicates to me also that these are intense information work jobs. If it's possible to automate the work of a software developer or a junior lawyer, you can automate a lot of things. It's just a question of repackaging that technology in due course.
I think another one would be the customer service.
Customer service, certainly, yeah. And Intercom is a local company that is doing very well at that.